Big box store, Target, Walmart, Best Buy employees. What's some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that happens that the public doesn't know about? Worked at Target, and if there's any price dispute at all with what's rung up and what is posted, they will take the customer's word for it, within reason. For example, I worked in the food, and we had meat for sale at $3. The sticker on the food said $1, but the signage in the aisle said $3. A woman disputed it and got $40 of meat for $6. The woman was an absolute regular. She has easily spent thousands of dollars at that Target, more than she has ever gotten in discounts. So the managers know she will come back and spend more money if she thinks she is winning. I worked at Home Depot too, and each cashier can take $50 off for customer satisfaction. And we've been told to discount orders for things like, "It took forever to find what I needed." Story 2. Many of the Black Friday deals are items made with inferior quality compared to the original product. They change the article number to protect themselves legally. Story 3. There are often laws, depending which country you are in, that dictate how long a promotional price can be displayed before it becomes the normal retail price. Other comments mention inferior product being bought to sell at clearance prices, but it can go beyond that. Let's say a toaster is normally $100. For the next 2 weeks, it's on a half-price sale. The 2 weeks after that, it's buy one appliance, get another free. 2 weeks after that, it's buy two appliances, save 50%. That toaster's retail price is $50, no matter how it's worded. Story 4. This is probably common sense, but just in case, you really should probably wash your new clothes before wearing them. I spent a year doing overnights at Target and Softlines, the backroom aisles of clothing, shoes, and baby, and when I'd wash my hands at the end of the shift, the water would truly be deep charcoal gray. Story 5. I worked at Super Target a decade ago. Working in the warehouse was one of the most fun jobs I had in my young life. My boss used to walk around with a box cutter and slip next to bags of cookies and chips, resulting in the product becoming defective. So it was up to us to dispose of the product. Story 6. When you ask us to double-check the back and we go, we're just sitting on a box looking at our phones for a few minutes before coming back out. We know it's not back there. Also, you think you got away with shoplifting from Target? They saw. Don't make a habit of it. Target waits until you've stolen enough, $500, and then calls the police and gets you charged with an actual crime. Story 7. Worked at Macy's for years. Macy's doesn't work commission anymore, except in some very specific areas like fine jewelry and shoes, but only if they work in that specific area. So one trick the management would do at my store to get around that was to just pull from other departments when they were short, instead of calling in someone who worked there and needed the hours. That way, they don't have to pay any commission. Furthermore, employees are still required to make a certain dollar amount of sales. They use the same system they used back when commission was given to everyone. Used to be that if you exceeded a certain dollar amount in sales in a given day, you'd get a bonus. But then they ditched that commission system at my store but kept the goal number and just instead expected everyone to hit it all the time. This figure is supposedly based on sales made the same day the previous year, but it never really worked out that way and always came to a suspiciously round number. Failure to meet this number gets you written up. Successfully meeting this number also gets you written up for not exceeding it by enough. The only way around that was to work in a department that consistently met the goals set for it. They pushed this idea called magic selling. Basically, it's nothing but a flowery way of saying, just provide good customer service. But they love talking about it like it's some amazing, innovative idea to meet your customer. Greeting them properly, ask questions to figure out what you can help them with, give them options and advice, inspire them to buy more, in plain English, that just means upselling, and celebrate the purchase with them before they leave. It's really not, it's just normal customer service, really. But the management thinks it is actual magic, and can somehow cause someone working in the watch department for 4 hours on a day when nobody comes into the area to just create $300 worth of sales out of customers who are literally not even present. The issue is the management has their own goals set for their departments, and they get in trouble if the department doesn't meet the goals. So the crap falls down, and if the arbitrary goals aren't met, their training is to ride your ass and actually prevent you from doing your job, so they can tell you off for not doing your job well enough for their liking. Story 8. I've worked at a few of them. K's. The corporate complaints line will do just about anything to keep from getting bad PR. The employees generally can't do anything other than stand there and recite company policy. So don't get mad at them, just call corporate. Also, the special buys for $25 or $20 aren't pieces they normally carry. They are made specifically for that event. They don't retail normally for $80. Macy's. A majority of the stock is on the floor at any given point in time, at least where I worked. Arguing with the employee to check the back normally results in a few seconds of peace and quiet in the stockroom. Target. If they have mobile phone department, chances are the person in the black shirt has no clue what's going on in the rest of the store. They are there as a vendor to sell phones and have little to no cross-training. Story 9. Zellers around 2005. Zellers was like a Canadian Target or Kmart that had a diner in it. I worked in the clothing department. We once found a box, long lost and buried in the back with girls' dresses. They went on the shelves discounted, then discounted again, etc. IDK, if they eventually sold, would find the remains of shoplifted weight loss supplements in the plus-size section all the time. I wonder if that still happens. People would occasionally try to shoplift jeans, leave their old jeans on a hanger, but walk out with the size stickers still on them and get caught. People shoplifted all the time, like constantly. Some would wait nonchalantly near the fitting room for the attendant to return clothes and go ham. We would find discarded tags everywhere. Employees did too. My supervisor was fired for it. Story 10. Worked at a Barnes & Noble. Here's a few off the top of my head that I can remember. The one I worked at sold textbooks, so a few for that. One was I understand that Pearson's and other major publishers host huge promo events in football stadium sizes, with thousands of dollars of catering and giveaways to college execs. It's here that they push new editions of texts. And while there are professors who do insist on their own books, I've had many conversations with professors on the phone who were ordering books for the following semester, and they'd ask my opinion, as a student, what the best option was. Whether students preferred the cheaper ebooks at the expense of no hard copy, or the cheaper paperbacks that run the risk of losing pages, or would they prefer the hard copy that is more expensive? Often, they'd only be allocated one type of order by their departments, and the ones I spoke with really were trying to be accommodating. A lot to the pressure for new editions came from higher up the totem pole, the people who were invited to those Pearson's promotions events. Another thing that may not be obvious, sometimes you can be screwed with buyback. There's a national used book dealer that we give our spare inventory at the end of the year and buy new inventory from for the new year. It's where we get the majority of our used books from. There are laws surrounding the buy and sale of international editions. It's policy that we can't buy back an international edition. Occasionally, some employee somewhere will buy one back anyway. It gets sent to EMS, and then they'll send an international edition to a new store the next year. Some college kid who doesn't give a duck will put the ISBN on the book anyway instead of telling their manager and pulling it from the shelf, and then it gets sold. You might be able to sell it back at the end of the semester, or you might get an employee who follows procedure and tells you they can't buy it back. It sucks. Tip: if the book has black duct tape down the spine or on the cover anywhere, it's probably international. If you intend to try and sell back, opt for another copy. When I worked the cafe, my manager told me that selling one grande cup of coffee was basically the cost of the entire brewed batch. Like we buy boxes with a couple dozen bags for coffee in it. If you divide out the cost of the total number of batches by the total cost of the box, it was roughly the cost of one medium coffee. Story 11. I have various family who work at Walmart. They have a customer satisfaction guarantee and will return just about anything within reason, even well past the warranty. The magic words are, "That's it, I'm calling Walmart," if you are being given a hard time, as they will nearly always override the store. Just learned this yesterday whilst meeting my family member at Target. When you press the button summoning help, they have 45 seconds to respond, and an automated call goes out to all two-way radios. Fast service needed in department. Who is responding? If they don't respond in time, head office is informed. Stores are judged harshly if too many calls time out. So please, be nice to the flustered-looking team member who helps you. They may have literally ran from the other end of the store. Story 12. Used to work at Toy R Us years ago. I loved my coworkers. Everyone was a nerd for something. Comic books, anime, card games, etc., which made work really enjoyable. But in addition to bad pricing year-round, certain popular toys would experience price creep starting in September-October. Easy bake ovens were $40 and SEPT $60 by no view. Then during Black Friday and random weeks throughout the holidays would be on sale for $40. Skylanders, same thing, $10 normally, creeped to $12 and then on sale for $10. The kicker was they'd keep the prices high and then offer no sales post-holidays so your gift cards wouldn't go as far. Prices usually went back to normal by April. Also, at least my store was very customer is always right that 50% off a baby item coupon from Babies R Us. Bring it to True and ask for a manager. You'll get the discount on a toy. Customer claims price tag is different. If it's within $10, don't question, just change it. If you didn't mind getting a little confrontational, you could get some good deals. Story 13. I framed pictures at Hobby Lobby for a while. The Christmas crunch is a true thing. I would work through nights, on Sundays, and even up through Christmas Eve to get your pictures finished. I tried really hard to make sure everyone had their gift on, but at a certain point, it's closing time on December 23rd. There are 300 orders in line ahead of you, and I honestly don't care how important your particular thing is, so no guarantees. Know who will guarantee your order is completed on time? A discreet Andrew Jackson. People tip a lot in those gigs, and they get treated better. Story 14. Former JCPenney employee. They'll take almost anything back. A lady came in wanting to return a pair of pants but didn't have her receipt because she had bought them a few months prior. She explained that she had worn and washed them several times since buying them, but one of the legs got a small hole in it, and she just didn't think they should be tearing up already. The manager accepted the return and gave her store credit. Story 15. Worked at Best Buy. There wasn't any commission made unless it was like a Magnolia home theater. But sales associates had legit hourly, daily goals for sales, which is why you sometimes feel bombarded by employees and they would want to close the sale right then and there before you went somewhere else, because a lot of times. Another employee who would ring up the sale would put their numbers in and then get credit for the entire sale, even if they didn't help with it at all. Also, if you don't hit those goals consistently enough, even if it's like an extremely slow season, there was the threat of being fired. However, behind the scenes, you were able to get some of the best deals ever, to the point where I usually recommend putting up with a part-time one-day, week shift just to get them. The Best Buy brand stuff was super cheap, so like phone chargers were like 80 cents. Then there were like online quizzes we could take on products to become store experts on them, which usually resulted in getting insane deals like 60% off a Sony TV if you did those, or like I combined 2 at the time and got my Netgear Nighthawk for mad cheap. Also, Geek Squad protection was crazy cheap as an employee, so we used to get it on like Bluetooth headphones, and when they broke, we would just use the protection to replace them with headphones or equal or better value. Finally, a lot of those TV deals around Black Friday that are doorbusters that are too good to be true usually were, and while they weren't terrible, they weren't made with the best parts. Story 16. I worked for Target for 6 years, 1 as a cashier, 1 at guest services, and 4 as the store receiver. As the store receiver, I was responsible for receiving all vendor merchandise into inventory: Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Pepperidge Farm, Miller Coors, etc., UPS, FedEx deliveries, usually books, DVDs, video games, overnight rush deliveries of Hatchimals, etc., food bank donation pickups, processing out damaged inventory, and pulling, destroying recall items. 1. Profit margins on vendor merchandise is usually very slim, if there is any at all. For example, a 12-pack of soda is usually purchased from the vendor for $1 or so more than it is sold for. When they go on sale, Target usually loses between $1 and $2 on every 12 packs sold. DVDs are even worse. 2. Do not ever put your mouth on a soda beer, Red Bull can. I've watched cans roll around on the floor and be repacked into 12 packs for sale. I've seen merchandisers stand on cases of Red Bull to reach things. Warehouses are dirty and merchandisers' hands are dirtier. They're grabbing cans where you put your lips. Just don't do it. 3. Bought some medicine, cosmetics, food, but ended up not needing it? It's hazardous waste or garbage now. Medicine and cosmetics are processed through Target's environmental sensitive item management process. Each item is individually bagged and zip-tied, sorted into one of 6 categories depending on its chemical makeup, and stored until the eSIM vendor comes for a pickup. Any and all returned food is garbage. It's too risky for Target to resell or donate. The only food eligible for donation is product that has been damaged during delivery, stocking, or by a guest. So just keep that extra Halloween candy. 4. Stuff is recalled for the dumbest reasons. My favorite recall was a t-shirt that said, "Keep your friends close, keep your whiskey closer." I had to pull it off the sales floor and destroy it because it was deemed offensive by guests. Worst recall was about 450 pillows. Recalled because the bag said "Made in the USA" when they were really made in China, filled and finished in the USA. I had to black out the "Made in the USA" label in 2 spots on every pillow with a Sharpie. The only good thing is that we were able to donate the pillows to our local food bank. Story 17. I worked for Walmart for about a year as a cashier. Surprisingly, work politics was actually really prevalent within the store. You wouldn't think that due to the reputation Walmart tends to have with the public. The department managers would have their favorites who would receive the promotions, and they would always pretend that everything was fine to the store manager. This led to my Walmart to become a mess in terms of workplace culture, since none of the lower tiers would be really recognized for their efforts, unless a customer filled out the survey, which was rare, since the managers tended to play favorites. This in turn encouraged the low-effort feel that many people felt at my Walmart, since no one was truly being appreciated. However, among many folks down in the lower tiers, there was a huge sense of community among us. We would try and help and support each other if we couldn't make it to a shift, talk to one another about our problems outside of Walmart, or just support each other when we dealt with a really difficult customer. That being said, I'm grateful to at least work there for a year more or less. I looked forward to the days in the break room when there was just enough room in the budget to allow for them to serve us lunch. BBQ, pizza, hot dogs, or a cake. Those days were nice since it was a break from the monotonous shift. Speaking of my shifts, cashiers at my store were responsible for binning the things that all y'all didn't want to buy in the back. The issue is that we were also responsible, if associates of that department were not available, which was most of the time, for putting those same items back in the shelves. We work in a super Walmart where we only work the registrars. Most cashiers tended to just put stuff randomly back onto the shelves, causing so much chaos for the stockers and the poor customers on the floor. Don't even get me started on how some of the cashiers handled eggs, milk, cheese, etc. When people didn't want them, whenever rush hour came along, we cashiers would have to rush up to the front, but not run, in order to help check out the hordes of people, leaving our previous tasks for some unfortunate associate who doesn't know what the previous task was. Stockers themselves don't tend to remember their training, so many things tended to be incorrectly stocked on the shelves, pushing other products on the shelves, putting the wrong price tag, not even stocking the items. As a cashier, I had to constantly guess the general price of the product without the proper tag, or my CSM, customer service manager on shift, would have to guess. Combine that with the constant shoplifting in the store, and we lost a ton of money in profit. Phew. And no one really took the training seriously. Probably wasn't helped that the training was infused to glorify Sam Walton, praise be, and huge sections of the training did not really apply for the jobs that we were hired to do, or the jobs that were not in our job description. But hey, $11 per hour was good enough for me. Story 18. Used to work for Future Shop, now Best Buy, as stated by nearly everyone. Don't ask to check in the back, because there's nothing really back there. There were usually a few appliances that were already purchased by someone and waiting to go out for delivery, or items that were on layaway. Additionally, we kept all our high-end speaker stock back there, so you needed a salesperson to get them, and sometimes overstocked TVs. Our pricing structure could tell you a lot about the product you were buying. I might get this wrong, so don't hold me to it. It's been almost 10 years. If the price ends in 99, it's a regular retail price, and will probably be around for a while. If it ends in 98, it was clearance, and when it's gone, it'll be gone forever. Prices ending in 97 were pushed to clear and were probably going to be clearance soon, so if you're thinking of buying it, you don't have long to get it. 96 were open box items. Usually someone bought it and returned it in working condition, or when we received it on the truck, it had some kind of cosmetic damage. At times, we would also had 0.95, which is a price match with another retailer. This structure is the same at Best Buy Canada today. Some product categories have a fairly steady turnover. Laptops were generally only sold for about 13 weeks before it went clearance and a newer model was available. Desktop computers were about 20 weeks. Cameras were closer to 45 weeks. TVs were about 25 weeks. It was kind of interesting to watch that as an employee, as you could get crazy deals if you asked the right manager because they wanted rid of those items before they went clearance. Managers had their bonus stock depending on the amount of clearance items that were in the store each quarter. Our staff purchase was amazing. We got everything for cost plus 5 precinct. That $20 USB printer cable you bought, the last one I bought was like 80 cents. Most cables or accessory pieces were like this. Flip side of that is most items were sold at near cost, so there wasn't much of a discount, if any. Computers, laptops, iPad are a good example. As most computers were sold under cost, we usually lost from $2 to $20 on every laptop. This is why retailers are so pushy when they sell you extended warranty. It's how they make money on those items. TVs were better, but we may only get like $50 off the retail price, and probably paid the same as anyone else if it was on sale. Before I left, we had an amazing benefits package, even for part-time people. If I remember right, you had to work 15 or more hours a week regularly to be eligible for full benefits, pension, and stocks. Unheard of in most retail environments then and now. I think after 2010, this got clawed back a lot because of the rise of online retail competition. Story 19. I worked at Toys R Us United Kingdom, RIP, in the mid-90s, on the ticket items. For anyone who's not come across that before, for the larger items, there would be a display model on the shop floor with a pouch of tickets attached to it. And if you wanted one, you took a ticket to the register and paid, and someone would come bring your item through from the warehouse area. Things I remember. Whenever a new ticket item arrived, we had to assemble one to go on display. Sometimes something would come in on the 8 a.m. truck that had to be on the shop floor for 9 a.m. after unloading. You haven't laughed properly until you've witnessed two big, hairy blokes frantically trying to assemble a folding vanity, makeup desk and chair set on a tight deadline. Where the hell are my curling tongs? Over there by your unicorn? Now pass me my damn sparkle stickers. I don't know anyone who worked at Central Dispatch, but they must have been Tetris masters. Every truck that arrived was literally floor to ceiling with products. None of it was palletized, and there was no rhyme or reason to the loading order. If there was a spare couple of cubic inches, bam, slap a single Barbie in the gap. There would be little sacks of marbles. Remember when people bought marbles? Tucked in random corners. Unloading those trucks was, interesting. Health and safety really hadn't caught on, mid-90. The store I was working in had just started carrying baby-related products, and we had racks and racks of nappies, diapers on pallet racking up to the warehouse roof. Hey, at least those were palletized, right? Yes, but there was no rhyme or reason to what was on each pallet. Central seemed to have decided that store needs 2,000 packs of Type X, 500 of Type Y, 1,500 of Type Z, and they'd all just been flung onto pallets and shrink-wrapped once the pallet was loaded. This meant that if we needed some of a particular type, it was a case of rooting through pallets at random until we found the right ones. As I said, the pallets were on racking, probably 3 stories tall. We had one high-lift pallet truck and only one person who could use it. So if the stuff you wanted wasn't on the bottom level, well, if the mountain will not come to Muhammad, Muhammad must go to the mountain, right? On several occasions, I found myself 30 feet up in the air, one arm round the racking while I fumbled through a loaded pallet with my other, and once I found what I was after, lobbing it down to, or more likely at, a colleague waiting below. Story 20. In the early 1990s, there would be a before-shift circle get pep circle at Walmart. People hold hands and recite pledges to be the best Walmart employees. There may have been a prayer or a song also. It ended with everyone holding hands and jumping in the air. I politely declined and was immediately suspect. I lasted 3 weeks. Story 21. Staples Business Depot in Canada measures its computer department employees by their attach. They care about how many accessories you sell alongside a big-ticket item, but they couldn't care less what the actual dollar amount was on the sale. Selling a $2,000 gaming laptop with no accessories would be an attach of 0 and would get you in big crap. Selling a $400 acre with a laptop bag, laptop case, screen protector, compressed air, and 3 flash drives would be an attach of 7 and would be considered a successful sale, even if the total dollar amount was well below $2,000. The profit margins on laptops are razor thin, especially when they're on sale, but there are ridiculous markups on the accessories. Sales with 0 attach are flagged in the computer system, and a store can get in a lot of trouble for having too many of them. If you try to buy just a laptop or just a printer at Staples with nothing else alongside it, you'll almost definitely be offered a discount on an accessory, or they might even throw in a ream of paper or a cheap flash drive for free just to keep the sale from being flagged. The startup services packages that Staples sells are a complete scam. For $100, they say they will get your computer all set up and configured to your exact needs, so it's ready to go right out of the box to save you the hassle of having to adjust all your settings. In reality, we just take your new laptop into the box, start it up, click Next a couple of times to get through the startup wizard with default settings, and do the same thing to install your antivirus. In my day, we at least burned recovery disks for you. Now that most laptops don't have CD drives, that's not even a thing anymore. Anybody can do this by just following the instructions on the screen. There is absolutely no need to pay for this. The same goes for furniture assembly fees, for computer chairs, by the way. The only way the furniture assembly fee is worthwhile for an office chair is if you have a physical disability, you're extremely elderly, or if you're ordering dozens of chairs at once to furnish a whole office building. Most people who paid the assembly fee were able-bodied people who were under the impression that the hydraulic mechanism in the chair is incredibly complicated to put together, or that the computer chairs require a full toolkit to assemble. Even high-end computer chairs are incredibly easy to put together. They're basically 5 pieces that pop together like Lego. When large chair orders came in, we used to race to see who could build them the fastest. At one point, I could put a chair together in under 3 minutes. Story 22. Market Pantry, Target brand, is literally delivered in Tyson boxes. You're getting Tyson chicken for a cheaper price than Tyson, even though it's the same stuff. Story 23. Current team member at Target. All cameras in the store have facial recognition, and at my store, we usually have a good bit of security walking around pretending to shop. Oh, and here is a little known tip for everyone. Yelling and making a scene at guest services does not help when we deny a return, which we have the option of denying for any reason. Story 24. Worked at a Target in New York for a few months. Soft lines had so many people trying on clothes without underwear and leaving crap stains in them, they had their own code for it. If you ever heard Code Brown over the walkie-talkies, it was not a good day. Story 25. Worked at Joann Fabrics. Prices increase every year in the summer months when we reset all the sections of the store one at a time. About 10 years ago, they were bought by a company that raised all the prices and then put out 60% off coupons. They always had the 40% off ones and only on special occasions put out bigger ones. Now almost every month they have 60% off or more. But you aren't saving any more than you were before with the 40% off. Also, they would do this sneaky thing with putting stuff you can and would be most likely to use said coupon on sale for 10% to 25% off, and you can't use that coupon on sale-priced items. So you're basically resigned to using it on cheaper things. There is always stuff in the back room, or sometimes on the shelf above your head. They have overstock of damn near everything. Overstock is supposed to be gone through once a week to stock anything that's sold down, but sometimes it doesn't happen, so don't be afraid to ask if they have more. Worked at TJ Maxx. The clothes aren't the same as you would get at the more expensive stores. They are made specifically for our store. The shoes are mostly crap. unless they are Sperry's or something like that. Those are usually like last season stuff that gets sent to us and we only get like 3 sizes of. There is nothing in the back room unless we are stocking stuff that just came in. Everything is supposed to be unloaded and stocked onto the floor on the same day. So we really aren't lying that there aren't any in the back. There aren't any coupons, not even on Black Friday, so don't ask. Just because you find something on the clearance rack doesn't mean it's actually on clearance. Other shoppers move things around and it doesn't always get caught being in the wrong place. They can check if it's been marked down or not. Always ask if you're not sure. Someone can check for you. LP is watching all the time and will sometimes walk around and pretend to be shoppers. The cashiers have to ask you if you want to sign up for the credit card. Everyone hates it as much as you do. Story 26. They turn the damn air conditioning off in Target during the summer when the nighttime stock people are there. The air conditioning is just for the customers, so you burn up if you have that job. Story 27. Worked at a few over the years. Kohl's. Not only are the products never full price, but you can tell the cashier you have a coupon or saw a product for cheaper. And even if you're an idiot about it, they'll give you the price. Also, never get a credit card there. Those things will ding your credit to apply and have a super high interest rate. Office Max. We are expected to get people to buy extended warranties on any electronic product we sell, including power strips and $5 USB drives. Unless you're buying a laptop for incredibly destructive children, never buy the warranty. It's not worth it. And the extra $70 you pay for it is almost pure profit. And frankly, if your kids are dumb enough to break their laptop, they can buy the next one with their own money. Just go with them to pick it out, because there are tons of unscrupulous types who will absolutely con kids into buying warranties for crap they don't need. Menards. The 11% sale is bullcrap. It's a mail-in rebate, meaning you pay full price up front and then have to remember to mail in your receipt. Even then, you still have to remember to bring in the rebate to use it. Also, we make fun of you for buying incandescent light bulbs. They're a waste of money. Sure, you might be 85 and don't want the LED bulbs to outlive you, but I'm still going to refer to you as Planet Killer 345. Jose A. Bank. All of our clothes are ridiculously overpriced a la Kohl's. However, at my store, we keep the sales running on non-sale days, so you'll actually buy something. No one wants to spend $800 on a suit. Story 28. Worked at 2 different Target stores over the course of a year. Target is currently changing their entire procedure process for basically everything. Some stores are doing okay with the changes, others aren't. If your Target store is in shambles all the time, it's likely that the management is terrible at that store. Try shopping at a different store and see if it looks better, is always stocked. And employees are more helpful because it's likely that the management team there is better and the employees are happier. The changes are happening because Target's biggest fear right now is losing business to online shopping. I personally think Target was doing great, and the changes are going to drive them out of business because there's not enough time in the day to get any jobs done with the new processes. It used to be that Target's employees were team members, and they held up to that name, and we truly worked as a team. Now we all work independently, and there's not enough time and manpower to get all the tasks done during the day. I would literally work at top speeds and couldn't finish all my tasks, whereas when we used the old process, I was able to finish all my tasks and help my team members. The new process for unloading the truck is a disaster too. I worked the Softlines truck, and we never finished processing it and putting it on the floor. It got to the point where we had 20 pallets stacked with boxes of clothes that weren't getting processed. I was so frustrated at work every day that I quit. My manager told me that my new job was going to fire me and that going to school was stupid. Whereas at my first Target store, when I told them I was moving and needed to transfer, everyone was super supportive and held a going away party for me. All in all, this turned into more of a rant, but it sort of explains how the stores are changing and employees go through like a revolving door now. Story 29. I worked at Walmart as an assembler for a bit when I was younger. Put together the bikes and grills and crap. Pretty much had a spot in the back to myself, so I knew the back like the back of my hand. The amount of friends I made from floor employees being made to go check the back was ridiculous. If it's not showing at the register, it isn't damn here. Also the amount of waste, especially with bikes. If something came missing a brake lever in the box or something dumb that I had a million replacements for in a pile, I still had to put it in a compactor and mark it defective. I was quick putting things together, so some days I would just go around fixing defective bikes and grills because the other option was to go home early and make $0 opposed to the crap wage we got paid. And the number one reason nobody is available on the floor? Because there are 30 half-bleached bob-cut Karens at any given time expecting special treatment and yelling at employees because they're too stupid to read a sign. And the ones that get someone fired? Yeah, that employee got a break until Karen left and then went right back to work. Don't be Karen. Nobody is impressed by your smug gave, and every employee in the store will make it a point to purposely make your day harder. Even managers. They started on the bottom too. Story 30. My mom worked at Michael's for over a decade. After they were acquired by Bain Capital, all these costs started getting slashed. She used to stock the shelves after they unloaded the truck at 5 a.m. Bain implemented a policy that they wouldn't turn on the lights or HVAC until an hour before the store opened. When most employees arrived, there was no way to override this, as everything was timed and controlled remotely. So the early morning staff, including my 60-year-old mom, wore parkas and those miners' headlamps, paid for out of their own pockets, for a few months before someone threatened to go to the press when the temperature was down in the 20 and there was no heat for 4 hours. My mom also bugged the crap out of corporate to change another policy. She used to be an elementary art teacher for a rural public school. She was basically given a bucket of markers and a box of construction paper every year. Meanwhile, Michaels is throwing thousands of dollars of high-end overstock art supplies into the trash compactor every month with a corporate policy not to let them leave the store. Mom started a letter-writing campaign, more like a letter-writing assault, and they eventually let her donate the supplies to local schools and community programs. Damn Bain Capital. Story 31. The garlic bread in oven-proof bags? That's bread that went out of date yesterday. If you see a lowered price sticker, we can lower it again if you ask. Kindly. We can't put some licensed images on our cakes, cupcakes, but we can print them on the edible image paper for you to put on the cake outside of the store. We usually don't have the state's main university logos to put on cakes. Licensing fees. No, I really do not have Fortnite material. Those 6 CT reduced price donut prices are so low because we lie about the box quantities. 8 boxes in the case at 81 cents? Probably told the discount app we had 16. You can do this with other products as well, depending on the area and employee. If you want 8 or 9 in that box, just ask. Otherwise, we normally blind box them or throw out the extras. We genuinely don't care and dislike the "I forgot my kid's birthday and it's tomorrow" crap. If you do this, you are getting whatever is out in the case. We customize to your liking as much as we can and put a new sticker on it. Failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on ours. No, I cannot sell you that game early. When audit and the release date comes, we have one missing. It records who made the sale, and we could face potential firing and ire from the production company. I'm not selling UKH3 early. If a phone purchase plan is taking a while, it's because the service provider is slow at activating the phone SIM card. If you try to eat unpurchased food in the area and try to bring it back as damaged, we add that item as a part of the tax when you pay. Don't be a slob. You will pay for it. Story 32. When I was a teenager, I worked in one such store. The loading bay was where employees went to do CK. The walk-in freezer was where employees went to smoke. We had 2 cases of employees getting fired for damn in the store. I guess those were the ones they actually caught on camera. Meat that was dropped to the filthy floor in the back was still packaged and put on shelves. It gets cooked anyway. Milk left unrefrigerated for hours was put on shelves. One mentally unstable guy told me not to get lunch from the salad bar as he deliberately sneezed and spit onto it regularly. Someone thought it'd be funny to crap into the cardboard compactor once. It wasn't. Story 33. At the Target I worked at, they always made us remove the signs and labels for sales a day before the sale ended. Additionally, if you bring frozen, refrigerated food and decide you don't want it, we gotta chuck it. This one lady brought in close to $80 worth of raw chicken and decided she didn't want it. That's $80 down the drain. Target never even acknowledges it has a sale until you bring it up at the register. Occasionally, if you get baked goods, they'll be frozen. We moved the expiration date a day back for it to defrost. Sometimes when my coworkers would push carts of dairy or meat, they'd just leave it there when their shift ends. So be careful about that. Overall, damn the grocery department in Target. Their crap is overpriced anyways, and you could get it elsewhere. Story 34. The Superstore has a policy that if a customer complains enough, they'll just do the return. The gift cards from the clothing section, Joe Fresh, can be used on anything in the store. We can look in the back for your size of clothing unless it's clearance. We keep all clearance on the floor. Story 35. I worked at Walmart for a year back in the day. They spent an insane amount of money and time keeping the sales floor clean and organized. The back room, on the other hand, was a hoarder's dream. It was a room about the size of a small gymnasium, and it was just piled to the roof with boxes and merchandise going back to the 90s. Plus, it stunk to high heaven from the rotted food and the dead rats. Story 36. I worked in Department of Information Technology at Walmart. Think unloading trucks and working as an extra hand for any department, and got to use the scanners for inventory some days. You think Walmart is cutting prices low because they care? Some items in the store have upwards of 500% markup solely because they buy in such bulk they get crap for pennies and sell it for $2 per piece. Story 37. Our Sam's Club and others, I'm sure, have a very generous return policy that I don't think people really know about. You can literally return anything no matter how long it has been. We had someone return a grill they had bought 5 years ago, rusted and very used, and exchange it for new model we received that spring. Sure, it's taking advantage of the system, but Sam's will accept the return. Another customer asked how long they had to return a mattress if they didn't like it after they had bought it. I had to ask a manager because I didn't know at the time. His reply: as long as they have the receipt, they can return it whenever, whether that's 10 days from now or 10 years. Tell the member to tape the receipt under the bed. Thanks, Sam Walton. Story 38. I did loss prevention at Walmart. They make all their employees watch anti-union videos. Any talk of unionizing is grounds for termination. LP was made to go through training, dressed as a normal employee, because we're expected to watch the other employees just as much as the customers. They also expected us to basically be willing to fight and die to protect Walmart property, all for like $12 an hour or something. I didn't stick around there for too long. Story 39. Walmart regularly hires people to work full-time hours, but calls them part-time, so they don't have to give them benefits. They say you'll be working 25-ish hours per week, and then book you for 40 and say it's temporary. It's not. They also don't care if you're being harassed. I had a fellow employee threaten to run me down in the back room with a walker stacker machine, and when I told management, they laughed in my face. The woman who threatened me had a history of doing it to new employees. Story 40. The stars on the aprons at Cracker Barrel are indications of what level of optional training that employee has gotten to. A new employee is called a rising star and has an apron that says that, with a name tag pinned to it. After their first month, they can do a computer training course and a quiz, and they get an apron with their name embroidered on it and a star, as well as a raise. And that's when their discount becomes active. After that, it's like 60 days from hire before you can get your next star, once you've completed the training and quiz, and something like 6 months to the third star, I don't remember exactly. Each new star also has the possibility for a raise. And once you get all 4, you get a bunch more vacation time, a gift card around Christmas, and other perks. Employees don't have to do the star program. They can stay at the 1-star level forever if they want. So the stars aren't necessarily indications of skill or knowledge. If someone has been there a year and only has 1 star and someone else has 3, the 1 star might know more. Story 41. Does Whole Foods count now that they're owned by Amazon? Worked there for a number of years. All those delicious items you're getting in the bakery, they all come in frozen and are baked off. The bread, unless you're lucky enough to get a store that either has an in-house scratch baker or a local bread company that comes in every day, comes from a big warehouse already baked and frozen. Just needs to get a crisp in the morning. The prep foods area is the biggest scam for me. When I had first started, everything was made in-house. Now 98% of the crap in their case comes in a 5-pound bag from the factory. If it's warm, they just heat it up in a water bath. We used to make our own pizza dough, but now it comes in frozen pre-made balls. When the factory food started rolling out, we still had signs stating that everything was made in-house for years. Drove me nuts. Also, all the in-house decorated cakes come frozen. They just take the pre-made cake sheets out and throw some frosting on them now. We used to make our own pâte à choux for eclairs. Not anymore. All pre-made and frozen from a box. Story 42. I was a Walmart employee for 3 years. I worked in lawn and garden, but was constantly sent out back to help unload the trucks as they came in. Let me tell you, it is a miracle anything makes its way onto shelves in anything resembling good condition. The way it works is that big boxes are pulled out of the delivery truck. The boxes get sliced open and dumped onto a big rolling conveyor belt thing we can wheel around. 3 or 4 people standing around the end of the conveyor belt, and there's a different pallet for every department. We would take the items off of the belt and just chuck them at the corresponding pallets. If we grabbed the wrong item, we'd toss it at the closest person to the correct pallet. So for the entire duration of unloading the truck, which took about 2 hours, we'd just be throwing boxes and cans and packages back and forth, as fast as possible with varying degrees of care or accuracy. Story 43. When I worked at Target, they'd always feed us. I'd go into the break room and it would be peanut butter with jam day or cereal day or ice cream sundae day. On bigger days like holidays or Black Friday, they'd cater anything from pizza on smaller holidays to full-blown BBQ rib buffet dinners from a local BBQ joint. Summers were popsicles in the freezer, and even a cookout once a summer. I mostly hated the job, but the people I worked with were great, all the way up the chain. Story 44. Current employee here. When a customer asks for us, go to look in the back. We don't go look because it's not back there. It never is. We just go chill for a few minutes and then come back out and tell them we don't have it. We don't keep stuff off the floor for no reason. Story 45. I worked in Walmart for many years. It was grueling work working a minimum of 45 hours per week and supporting Walmart Ho, Sam's Club, and other IT teams around the world. The benefits were meek. I left for better pay and better benefits, but the experience was invaluable. It was very easy finding jobs after my Walmart career. 2 key applications that help keep Walmart afloat are Retail Inc. and their replenishment system. I had the joy of watching both in action. It is quite amazing to see how fast Walmart can replenishment inventory all over the world. Retail Inc. is a system that third parties can log into and check on their good. They bid low to compete for Walmart's business. Another thing that Walmart was doing before any other company, I think, for all those unused gift cards, they would put the unused money into an interest-bearing account. With the 60% of people that don't use their gift cards, Walmart banks millions in interest. Story 46. I used to work as a customer service manager. I got zero training. They trusted me to make the right calls. So I let people get away with a lot of stuff because technically I wasn't trained. Price match that $6 tub of ice cream for $2. Sure. Have a return for that thing? No receipt? Sure. Want an extra 10 minutes on your break? Sure. Want to buy and stash a soda and snacks by your register? Sure. I never got in trouble. Plus, I was the favored and only male manager for all of the lady cashiers. But they promoted me elsewhere after a year. Point is, newly promoted people probably didn't get much training. Story 47. Maybe how little behind-the-scenes stuff there actually is. We don't have a massive warehouse in the back. I think most of the inventory in the back of my Walmart was TVs. People definitely thought that I had way more power than I did. I'll never forget when my check reader kept jamming. The customer flipped out calling me incompetent. My guy, I can do two things. I can insert the check and wait for it to do its thing, and I can remove jammed checks. I don't have a lot of options. Unlike you, who can use a less inconvenient form of payment, or when people complain to me that we don't have enough registers open. I was a 17-year-old cashier. Crazy, I know, but I have literally no say or voice in the matters of hiring or scheduling. I'll tell my supervisor. I'm sure she'll definitely do something about that, Lamau. Story 48. This is a positive one that a few people might know. I work at Bunnings, and we have this Have Your Say section where customers leave feedback. It 100% works. If you leave a good review, the employee gets a little badge to put on their apron and a certificate, as well as a good job from a manager. I got my 5th one the other day, and it feels really good, especially because they don't happen too often. However, if you leave a negative review, the manager has to respond to it, both to the customer and to the employee. So if they are rude, you will actually affect it. I had a lady leave one of these reviews to me. It was unfair and not true, so it didn't really go anywhere other than a reminder to be nice. But I've seen people move departments over them, if they get too many. Story 49. Not sure if Subway counts, but the containers that holds all the sauces gets really dirty, really fast. We almost never wash them. I imagine other places wash them out as often as us. Story 50. Worked the frozen meats department at Walmart last February. 1 week of computer labs and 5 days on the job. I needed the work to keep my mother's finances afloat. The department was in a period of transition because the manager was sidelined by a serious injury. There was no leadership to speak of, no formal training, no oversight. Apparently everyone they tapped turned the gig down because the department was losing money. Our lead was a nice, young department head from electronics who was forced into taking the role. Total crap show. Last day on the job. I had to open my mouth. All week my coworkers had been using their own gloves, the sort you wear in winter weather. Fabric gloves, not designed for handling food. I mentioned this to the veteran of the bunch when we were alone. I asked if he worried about food safety with that style of glove handling various species. He laughed and told me not to worry, that he washed them every night after letting his dog suck on them. Story 51. I worked at Burger King. People would have sex in the basement. Someone dropped a set of plastic tongues in the deep fryer and they were left in there for the day because we were so busy. At the end of the night when I drained the deep fryer, they weren't there. They disappeared into the fryer oil that was cooking up fries and chicken burgers all day. Walked in on a kid drinking liquid milkshakes straight out of the container in the fridge. Guys would go up to the roof to smoke. Was quite the place to work. Story 52. Not exactly a big box store, but I worked at a Navy commissary for a summer. The people who stock the shelves there are not commissary employees. We're independent contractors who are paid commission by the food companies. The reason I took my first contract was because my friend's dad was the distributor for the milk, and it paid pretty well. Since I was there anyway, and stocking the milk only took a few minutes 3 times a day, I decided to pick up the Tyson's chicken contract. Turned out my chicken contract only cared about how many cases I sold, so I would take the buy one get one stickers and put them on every single package as soon as I put them out. We were only supposed to put them on after they had been sitting in the display for a few days. Story 53. I worked at Academy Sports for 1 summer. I really enjoyed working there for the most part. Employees got a 20% discount on everything in the store except gift cards and deer feed. Items would often go on clearance based on our computer system that we had no control of. If the clearance item wasn't sold within that week, they would lower it another 10% or so. Rinse and repeat until it was sold. Once we figured this out, some of my coworkers would hide the best clearance items behind the counter and buy it ourselves once it got marked down like 80%. I had a coworker get a Shimano reel that was like $120 normally for $25. Story 54. I worked at Best Buy in high school, and the markups for chargers, cases, and accessories were insane. A $20 HDMI cable would be about $1 with employee discount. 10% more than Best Buy paid for it IARC. I was saving money at the time, so I didn't take full advantage of it, but I would often scan it with employee discount just to see how much profit Best Buy made off of products. Story 55. Stocked shelves at PetSmart. The people you see in the aisles stocking shelves are hired to stock shelves, not give vet advice. I had so many customers ask me things like, will Purina Pro Plan be healthy for my dog to eat? Or, what's the best dog food? Lady, I make $10 an hour, 10 hours a week. I can't afford to buy myself food, much less my dog. I have no idea. Also, when you bother those employees, they can get written up for not working fast enough. Story 56. A lot of times when workers say, sorry sir, we are out of XYZ, what they really means is, the computer says there is 1 or 2 left, but I have no idea where they are or how to even look for it. Also, workers drop merchandise all the time. It's a miracle anything ever gets sold in one piece. Story 57. I worked at Target for about 18 months. I started in the cafe and eventually became the lead over Starbucks. Starbucks TL is probably one of the worst positions in the store. You have bosses at Target, but you also have a boss through Starbucks. Target is solely focused on being a retail, big box store, and Starbucks is a coffee shop. Their goals and values are almost never compatible, and the kind of gets the crap end of the deal in this. It's your job to make both of your bosses happy, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Spoiler, they aren't in your favor. My district of 5, I think, stores went through 8 Starbucks TLS in about 2 years. Story 58. Just how damn much gets thrown away, and how much the upcharge is on items. The holiday stuff was the worst. Our scan guns would tell us how much the item was to produce. Usually it would sell for 500% of what it cost to make the thing. Then after the holiday, if it didn't sell, we'd be asked to throw away whatever was left so that customers never realized how much money they were wasting by feeling like they were getting a bargain. The worst part is we weren't allowed to take the things home or give them to a charity. So many seasonal Christmas toys and art kits were thrown into the trash when they could have made a kid really happy. Nothing to make you hate capitalism like working retail for a few years. Story 59. I worked at both Target and Walmart for a brief moment in my early 20s. I can tell you that we don't have to go to the back to tell you whether we have more of an out-of-stock item. Most employees are given a little scanner that tells us how much of something we have in the back and exactly where to find it. If an employee says something along the lines of, let me go check, or I'm going to go have a look for you, it usually means that they are only trying to kill time. We got paid by the hour, so there isn't really any motivation to rush. Also, it's a good way to appear like you're providing good customer service while doing absolutely nothing. Story 60. Barnes & Noble for 5 years. The membership is actually worth it, and all the employees had memberships in addition to their employee discounts. The back room is packed with books and boxes, on carts, shelves, and not organized in anyway. Also, even if we have a copy of the book, you want customers put crap back in wrong places, and then we can't find it. People who expected I would watch their kids while working in the children's section, damn you. I quit this year because all the behind-the-scenes changes to cut costs made me just know they were going out of business soon. I started out loving working there, but all the corporate changes made me and my coworkers go from happy to really angry in like 6 months. Story 61. I worked at MediaPlay, was a big box like Best Buy without electronics, back when it was still a thing. Biggest thing that most people don't know or realize is that movies, music, and books are usually shipped to the store weeks in advance. Video games to a lesser degree, but we would still get them several days early. My best story was the stocking manager who got fired for stealing pre-release stuff. He said he was taking it home and watching it himself and bringing it back. But I had a suspicion he was with what would now be a torrent release group and would rip the movies for cred. Never proved it. But how else did those rips come out early? Story 62. I worked back shift at Walmart stocking shelves for 9 months. I was responsible for the pet sections. Those 9 months, I was in the best shape of my life, lifting bags of dog and cat food every night. People stole a lot of frozen steaks, ripped the box open, and shoved steaks in their pants. They also would walk around with bed in a bags and fill them with things and hide them places only to come back and steal them at another time so no one was suspicious of them. One time I found a bed in a bag full of children's birthday party supplies in my section. I left it there. I hope they came back and got it safely. Story 63. After the holidays, the store I worked for threw away a lot of seasonal toys and items. It was really depressing to see how much good stuff was being thrown away. I asked the manager why they don't donate it to children in need, and they told me they had already donated all they were allowed to donate, and therefore, it had to be destroyed. I did a small amount of research, and basically it said they were only allowed to deduct a percentage of their overall taxable income for charitable donations. So, while I guess they maybe could have given more, they wouldn't have gotten credit for it anyway. I'm not a tax lawyer, but it really sucks. Story 64. There is way more employees than you would ever think work there. Like, you don't realize the mammoth size of store, combined with all the stuff going on in back. You have people unloading trucks, taking inventory, bringing out stuff that needs to be stocked, stocking it, cleaning. Even night shift was about 40 people during slow nights. Shopping holidays add 20 people to that. Day shift pretty much had 60 or so and did about quarter of stocking, inventory stuff. Story 65. At Best Buy, the associates make a big deal about how they don't receive commissions to make themselves appear more trustworthy, unbiased, on your side. It's true, they don't work on commission, but they definitely have numbers, targets, and get chewed out for failing to attach as much crap as possible to the sale. If you bought a TV but passed on upgrading your HDMI cables to something ludicrously expensive, they're going to get crap for it. That was the only reason they even brought up the cables, unless they are dumb enough to believe in expensive HDMI cables, separate issue. Story 66. I worked at a Walmart supercenter years ago around Easter. The store got 6 pallets of eggs in, each of them stacked about 8 feet high. The day before Easter, we still had 3 pallets that hadn't even been touched, and we had started receiving our normal shipments back in as well. The manager on duty had me dump 3 pallets of eggs, easily 300 dozen, into the trash compactor. The dates on them were still good for several weeks. I asked about donating them to House of Ruth, orphanages, schools, jails, prisons, anything other than throwing them out, and they wouldn't even entertain the idea. I'm still pissed about it 9 years later. Story 67. Worked at Target quite a long time ago. No idea if this still happens, but seasonal employees who put returns back don't want to spend the time actually finding where they should go. Instead, they would hide the smaller items in any number of random locations, often behind shelved products that would cover them. If you pull an item off the shelf and find random crap behind there, that's why. The best hiding spot was in the base of each shelving unit. The metal cover wasn't attached, so it would lift right off. Don't feel like putting away this basket of returns? Just pour the whole thing in there and put the cover back. Story 68. When I worked at Target, we had little pads of rain check tickets that could be taken to a register and scanned to print out a rain check for that item at the sale price. People didn't realize if the item the rain check was for was 40% off. For example, a customer could use that rain check on any like item and get 40% off. A certain TV was 35% off and out of stock and had a rain check available. Take that 35% off of another similar TV. Story 69. Almost 10 years ago, Walmart stopped throwing away pretty much all food in the garbage at the supercenters. The sealed but expired food and slightly damaged but still edible food gets donated to a food shelf. Opened and rotten food gets either put in a compost bin or a meat bin. They are taken by local company to process them. The compost is made into dirt, and the meat is made into animal feed. I also used to work in the deli, and they had very strict food safety standards. Story 70. Sure, the website says we have the thing in stock, but that thing could be in the middle of any of the 50 pallets out the back. It's as good as gone. No, I can check out the back for you. We are told to tell you that if it isn't on show, we don't have it. If you could see the state of the back dock, you would cry. It's only ever neat and how it's meant to be when we have a store visit. Staff of Walmart on Reddit, what is the weirdest or craziest thing that has happened at your job? Some context, I worked night shift as a stalker. It's very different than daytime Walmart. Ours was on the bad side of town in Oklahoma. So while the Walmart of the west end of town got to be free of customers at night, we were not. Spent my entirety of my night last putting things on shelves. Some areas I was a lot better, faster at than others, and I think I had gotten onto the bad side of one of my managers because he was very determined to have me work my worst department. The mother trucking automotive. My dad always tried to teach me about cars, but it was in one ear out the butt for me. So when I have 13 hours of freight to stock in my 8-hour shift and all of it looks like foreign alien monkey toys, I feel a little defeated. No matter though, I'm going to prove those managers wrong once and for all. I plug into my headphones and hand it over to the Queen of Monsters, Miss Lady Gaga. Being so entranced by these melodies, I completely space on going to my usual lunch break. Eventually, I realize I'm late to lunch and book it outside to see if any of my lunch buddies are still eating. I took my lunch outside. As I'm finishing up my lunch and crunching on a glorious red apple, an Oklahoma City police cruiser rolls up. Now our store was no stranger to cops, but we were also 20 to 30 minutes south of OKT. The cop exits his car, walks around to the back, much like a chauffeur, and lets a man out. He goes to the trunk and retrieves a bag for the man and goes on to ask him, "Are you sure this is where you want to be? Are you going to cause any trouble?" To which my new friend answers yes and no, respectively. The cop scurries off and lay heads inside. Odd, but I still have to put away half of my freight. I grab some empty carts and head to farthest back corner of the store where automotive is located and get back to work. Headphones in, Gaga engaged. All of a sudden, James, the littlest piggy of the assistant managers, come by, clearly yelling at me, but I can't hear a damn thing over old rabbit teeth. I pop out a headphone, already making excuses to why I'm not already done and helping another department. He interrupts me with, "What the duck are you doing? Get the duck out of the store." Well, James, since you asked so kindly. On my stroll back to the front of the store, I take a shortcut through clothing and see a trail of red on much of the tiling. I literally thought it was fruit punch. Spoilers, it's not. As I get closer to the front, I start seeing all our boys in blue hustling and bustling in. Once I'm finally out, I find the gossipiest cashier I can and have her lay on the dirt she knows. Combined with her story and the input of other customers, employees, what we think happened was Loch Ness Monster, Tree Fitty, John Cena. Look, a choose-your-own ending. I kid. What actually happened is that once Beat with the Knife went in, he bought 2 plums and sat down in a chair at the front of the store near checkout and ate one. Then he got up and went to the clothing department. He comes back and asks the cashiers for a Band-Aid. They ask what for, and he shows them his leg, which has a nice deep wound in it. He says somebody else got him while he was walking around, hence Piggy James wailing to get the duck out. Everyone is evacuated, and the cops are called in. No person with a knife is found. The cops question Beat with the knife and find out he was the stabbing bandit the whole time. I hate Walmart so much. Story 2. Overnight at store 12 here, we had an electrical fire start above the men's department on the intercom speaker once. Evacuated for an hour, then went right back to stocking. Around a week later, another broke out on an emergency light in grocery. Quite recently, I was sitting in the bathroom when the power went out all at once. Stayed pitch black for around 10 minutes before the generators kicked in. Once it came back on, alarms started going off for around 30 minutes before they finally shut them off. During all of this, sections of the store would lose power while the others still had it. Went on for a while before it stabilized. Then we kicked out all of the customers and kept stocking. I was working toys one night, and this fat guy walked up with a cheap little Spider-Man mask and said something along the lines of, "Beware, for I am the spider fat. Do not tingle my fat senses." Then he calmly walked away and went about his business. Had a guy leave in a furious, cussing rage one time. Maintenance was stripping and waxing a small section, as they do every night. They wouldn't let this guy cross the rope to walk across the freshly waxed and still wet floor. He just started screaming at the poor lady before storming out, muttering various forms of the word duck a lot. He was super salty. He had a blonde female manager grab 2 cases of alcoholic drinks one night and hold them up. One was called Abuser and the other was Blonde. "Anyone want an Abuser Blonde?" she said, raising each case as she said its name. We did a special midnight release for the new Star Wars toys a while back, the Thursday leading into Force Friday. We had cupcakes, pins, and little pug-like things. Absolutely no one came. No one. Except for Darth Vader. He never said anything. He just walked around the toy department before getting bored and just kind of wandering off. Crappy picture from behind, taken halfway across the store. He turned right as I clicked the button at the first store I worked at. I was on IMs then rather than stocking. We had a girl get fired over bullcrap. We had a pallet we needed down from a bin, but the one next to it had collapsed over onto it. We asked a manager and were pretty much told to figure it out. Most stores have a lift that you can go up in for stuff like that. We had one, but no one knew about it at the time due to crappy management. We eventually set up 2 ladders and let this girl climb up into the bin to restack the pallet. All went well. Problem solved. That morning, she was fired for improper safety, and the other guy that helped her was written up for not telling her not to do it. Story 3. 2 drunk guys came in one night around 2 a.m. and went to the food section, got a couple boxes of Cheez-Its, a case of Dr. Pepper and beef Getty, then went to the toy section and sat on the floor playing with the toys. Then opened a box of City Legos, Firehouse set, and attempted to put it together. By the time the police showed up, they were halfway through building the set. Before they were arrested, they gave my manager $200 for any damages and another $100 to keep their Lego set, because they would need something to do in jail for the night. That was a fun night. Best part is my manager didn't want to call the cops, but did just to cover base. He let them sit there for about 45 minutes before he called the cops. The guys just wanted to build them some Legos. Story 4. Ex-worker here. I have worked 3rd shift and 2nd shift. They'll start off with 2nd shift, as that was the most excitement I have ever seen on a daily basis. Well, I was working in housewares, and the most infuriating thing that has ever happened near me was when I witnessed a bunch of teens spraying silly string all over the place. They had like 5 cans and emptied them all out all over everything. I had to run to get the managers and then identify the culprits. The cops were called, and they had to pay for the cans they used and the damage that was done. Pissed me off hardcore. The other weird things that happened on 2nd shift was this guy would come in every day and do a loop around the whole store. He started in lawn and garden and made his way through the store from there. I had the misfortune of him ending up in my department. He never changed his clothes. Every day he wore the same thing, and he smelled of pure, nasty crap. He was 2 aisles over and I was helping a customer. I instantly started smelling something nasty. The conversations I was having with the customer ended when he gagged and walked away. I had to leave my department until that guy left. He smelled so bad. Now, 3rd shift. 3rd shift wasn't so bad. It was usually pretty quiet, how I like it. Well, one night these boys came in at around 3 a.m. and grabbed skateboards and starting skating through the whole store, throwing down displays in the progress. They would kick pallets, or walk on the empty ones. When yelled at to not stand on them, they would swear and walk away. They caused so much damage that night. The manager that night got so fed up, he walked over to them and told them all he was calling the cops and to not go anywhere. He scared the crap out of them, and the cops came and arrested them all. Damn kids. Another odd thing that happened on third shift was a day I wasn't scheduled. I would have been blamed with everyone else. But the story goes, as told by the manager, a guy came in while everyone was working and took a very expensive large TV. He literally walked it outside and put it in his car. The alarms were going off and everything. He took 4 TVs, a Blu-ray disc player, and a suitcase. He even left the store. No one on third shift noticed the alarm or stopped him. Luckily, they got him on camera and arrested him. But damn, story 5? Not necessarily funny, but definitely crazy. I worked in the bakery, helped a wonderful older woman named Rose make birthday cakes and such. She put 110% in everything she did and absolutely loved her job. And I loved working with her. After spending hours working, we made a multi-tiered, Avenger-themed birthday cake for an 8-year-old. This cake was amazing and beautiful. Not something you'd usually see in a Walmart. We were proud of this thing and couldn't wait until the customer saw it. She was getting a masterpiece for next to nothing at $20. When the customer finally came, I placed the cake box in her hands. She looked at the cake for a good 10 seconds in her hands and scowled. Then it fell. She just let go of it. It fell with a splat on the ground, and Rose let out a small cry when she saw her masterpiece ruined on the ground. The woman began yelling at me for not putting it in her hands very well, despite her having held it firmly and perfectly still in her hands for quite some time. I just stared at her dumbly as she went on a rant about how dumb I was, how I couldn't make cakes to save my life, and that she demanded another, better cake for absolutely free. Then she asked to see my manager. My manager, not wanting a fuss, agreed to give her the cake and refunded her purchase. After the woman was gone, Rose vouched for me and said it wasn't my fault. She asked that I stay with her and stay in the bakery. My manager was somewhat understanding, but I was moved to Walmart hell, cashiering, a few days later. Story 6. Worked at a Walmart from high school through college, and I saw plenty of crazy crap go down. The most memorable things, however, were the grossest. You know how people put things down on the shelf that they don't want anymore and walk away? With dry goods, that's fine. We can just reshelve it later. But some people won't bother putting away other stuff, like a bag of frozen French fries. You wouldn't think that would stink, but it's one of the worst smells ever. Soggy, spiced, slightly rotten, disgusting potatoes that reek straight through the package. Even worse, we had an aisle being used for clearance, and it was a mess. Piles of stuff on the shelves strewn all over the place, and for about a week, every time I walked through it, I smelled something weird. Slightly rotten, really unpleasant, but faint enough that it was just barely detectable. One day, we decided to clean out some of the shelves, and that's when I discovered the source. A bag of frozen shrimp left out on the shelf for a week. It was so rotten that the bag had swollen and was near popping. I nearly threw up taking it away. On one pleasant Monday morning, I was working my usual area when I came across a spill. The rule at Walmart is that if you find a spill, you can't leave it. You have to stand and guard it until someone else comes to help you clean it up. This spill, however, wasn't just in one spot. It was a long trail, and it smelled weird. Upon closer inspection, I realized that it was a trail of urine. Someone had, by the smoothness of the trail, been on one of the scooter carts and pissed all the way up through one aisle, around the corner, up past rows and rows of shelves, and into another department. It was so huge I couldn't guard it myself and didn't have a walkie-talkie, so I was stranded, trying to urge people away from walking, though the slowly spreading piss trail blanketing my area. Story 7. A few years before I was hired, a guy from the neighborhood behind the store walked to the rear of the store, then sat against the receiving doors and shot himself in the head. I was employed as loss prevention at a small store for a year. My old store requested I transfer back to replace another LP employee. He was fired for breaking a customer's ankle. The guy had previously been banned, so when he showed up, the police were called. He had just paid and was driving one of the electric carts to the exit when the police officer stopped him. The LP guy was standing with the cop, and when the cop went to stand the guy up and arrest him, he spun and tried to run for the exit. LP guy grabbed him and slammed him down hard, leaving the guy with a ducked-up ankle. Second ankle incident. About a year later at the same store, a old fat black dude, 400 pounds, had filled his cart with one of the big desktop computer bundles and some other high-dollar electronic devices. He paced the store and was attempting to just walk out the doors with the full cart, but it was super busy. He went into Garden Center where a manager spotted him walking in circles through the department. He was waiting for the right time to hit the fire exit and run out with the full cart. Off he goes, and the manager easily caught up. He knocked the cart over and the thief kept running. Apparently, a customer waiting for his car new tires to be mounted saw it all and caught up to the guy, then did some kung fu type crap, spinning him and throwing him to the ground. In doing so, the thief put all his weight down on one ankle, which promptly snapped to the side. Medics said the dude was extremely lucky the foot was still attached. Few other incidents got pissed on. Buddy got bit. Tahoe crashed through the wall at the back of the store. Story 8. This one time while working in electronics, this dude came up to one of my coworkers and said he cut himself on one of the displays and that he needed medical attention. We threw a crafty off-brand Band-Aid on his cut and sent him on his way. See, Walmart employee. A couple hours later, I noticed something wedged in between two of the displays, and I pulled it out. It was an empty prepaid phone case with a large slit down the side of the plastic mold and a bloodstain on the exposed cardboard packaging. Turns out the guy had hit his hand open while trying to steal one of our phones and had the audacity to ask us for help. Story 9. So many stories. I worked at a Walmart for 9 years, and I could tell some that people just would not believe. First is one that is short and sweet. While walking through the electronics department, I came across a young couple having sex. She had her skirt pulled up and his pants were around his calves. I wasn't sure that I saw that, so I backed up, and yep, they realized that they got caught and got themselves together and ran out of the department. Second involved our loss prevention team. They had been following a guy around that had been stealing, and when he was leaving, they went to get him. He started to attack the male LP person, while the female stayed back to jump in when she could. She was about to grab for his arm when the guy put his hand in his jacket. She told her partner to watch out, he was grabbing for something. The LP guy pushed him into the wall to give himself room when a police officer just happened to walk up and arrest the guy. A bystander started yelling about brutality and excessive force when the cop pulled out a needle that was reaching for to stab the LP guy with. And lastly, we had an employee that was caught stealing. When the police and the store finished their investigation, he was charged with grand larceny. He stole over $35,000 in money and merchandise. He did it by making duplicate receipts and returning the products again, as the system didn't take that into account. He would also clone and make his own gift cards with a card reader at home. Lots more to tell if people are interested. Story 10. Not an employee, but I was in Walmart one time. Turned down an aisle to find a big puddle of diarrhea, which is pretty shocking in itself. The icing on the cake was the fact there was a shoe print right in the middle of it. There was also the same shoe print leading away from the crime scene. I go into detective mode and follow the clues. The trail went on for a surprisingly long time. I finally make it over to the women's bra, underwear section where, strangely enough, it carpeted, while the rest of the store is linoleum. I managed to track it for a little while, but the shoe prints started to disappear in the dark blue carpet. I never found the poop shoe. To this day, I still wonder if the person who unleashed the brown puddle was also the one who stepped in it, just to be an idiot. Or if an unsuspecting passerby just happened to not be paying attention and wandered through a 2-foot-wide puddle of butt vomit. Story 11. The location I worked at in 2012 was seedy and older, in a gross part of town where a lot of addicts spent their time. It was not a 24-hour store, and compared to this location, every other Walmart I've been to felt downright safe. 2 homeless men lived in our McDonald's during the day. One was really nice to me and came by every day. His wallet was stuffed with lotto tickets. Anyway, this addict lady in a trench coat came up to me and rambled about needing some help with cell phones. I came out from behind the photo counter to help her, and she stuck her hand inside her coat and pulled a long knife out. Seemingly shocked, she brandished it and asked me, "Now, how did this end up in here?" My memory kind of blanks at this point, but somehow I convince her to put it in her bag. Not a purse, a plastic Walmart bag. She then began casually swinging the bag and the knife cuts through the bottom of the bag. The handle was still in the bag, the blade was sticking out the bottom, and she was damn swinging it back and forth. She was distracted by someone else in the store, who she began insulting. I went behind the photo counter and got on the walkie, asking my assistant manager to please come to electronics. He said he didn't have time right now, and I said that's fine, but if I was hit, it's on him. He came after that, and the police end up being called, arrive quickly, and the woman ends up being removed without any real incident. We just casually kept up some stupid conversation with her that escapes me right now until the police arrived. Asset protection was not on duty that day. Story 12. Was working as a cashier at the time. Around 9 p.m. and minding my own business, a disgruntled Middle Eastern young man comes up behind me and says, "There's no such thing as giants." I smile sheepishly back at the guy who is now in my personal space. "I'm sorry," I replied. "There's no such thing as giants," he angrily says again and points over to a novelty oversized lawn chair that can comfortably seat 2 people and 6 drink holders. Oh, I'm not sure if he's joking or not, so I try to diffuse the situation with humor. "I don't know. I've seen some people in my time, haha." He repeats the same line a few times, each time louder than the next, getting angrier and angrier. I see a feral look in his eyes, and I begin to feel much more threatened as he has me cornered behind my register. He grabs my shoulders and pushes me back onto the scanner. He shakes me a few more times, and I push him back. He then runs over the giant lawn chair display and knocks it over and tears some doggy sweaters off their hanger. Then he crouches over with his fingers in his ears and begins screaming at the top of lungs. For about 30 seconds, this continues until he begins to reaffirm his grasp on reality, quiets down, then leaves without a word. I shrug it off pretty easily, as wacky stuff like that happened a couple times a week. Story 13. This happened a few days ago. I say a few professional sentences to this guy, normal small talk while he was waiting to get his car. We talked for 7 minutes probably. He comes in the next day, storms in, and without asking how I am or anything tells me that he talked to me yesterday, and after work he is taking me to see a boxing match. What the heck, I hate boxing and all sports, honestly. I told him I was busy, and he kept on saying to cancel my plans and go with him. He wouldn't take no for an answer, and him arguing with me, trying to get me to go with him after work when I didn't even know the guy's name. And he was a good 15 years older than me was so odd. It freaked me out. He gave me his phone number and name and was waiting for me to give him my info, and I said, well, bye, because he was freaking me out, and he stormed away. The guys in the garage saw me throw away the paper, and one guy took it out of the trash and kept it because he said that guy is freaky and he comes in a lot. What the hell? They decided that they were going to call him pretending to be my dad. Ha. Ha. They never did it for obvious reasons, but this guy was so odd. I Googled tickets for this weekend's boxing at the venue he claimed it was at, and the last minute tickets were a good $150 each. Who the hell talks to someone for 7 minutes, doesn't ask if they like boxing, and tells them that in 3 hours, once their shift ends, they're going to go on a date? He didn't ask, he demanded. Freaks me out. Story 14. Time for a story. I worked at a small-town Walmart in East Texas. I was a cashier working self-check at the time. At about 11 p.m., this guy walks into self-check with a trolling motor and a can of Loctite. Young white guy dressed like a wannabe thug. Something seemed really off about him. Kind, slow, almost like he wasn't all there, so I asked him if he needed any help, to which he replies, oh nah man, I just remembered that I don't need the motor. So I took it and put it in a return cart by the main register. Now that seemed kind of weird, seeing that something as big and expensive as a boat motor would be a well thought out decision. So I watched him take out his wallet he had chained to his pants, put it on the counter, and realize he didn't have enough money for the Loctite. He looks at me, and I realize exactly what is about to happen. Without picking his wallet back up, he takes a few steps towards me, and his wallet follows, pouring the contents on the floor. Random cards and crap everywhere. Dude, can I borrow $1? I tell him I don't keep cash on me, which I don't. And he says, nah bro, it's cool, thanks anyways. Walks back, picks up his crap, and hands me the Loctite only to walk back into the store. My manager found him huffing paint about 20 minutes later, right as I was clocking out. Then I saw him breaking into a car in the parking lot. Called the cops, went home, and told my roommates an amazing story. Story 15. I used to work for Walmart in the corporate data center in Bentonville, AR. Everything was going fine, and I was loving my job, despite the weekly pep rallies and such. I was a big Steven Seagal fan at the time and decided to put my barely long enough hair into a ponytail. Suddenly, I found out who my boss's boss was. My boss called me into his office and wanted to give me some friendly, professional advice with regard to my hair. He advised me that it wasn't a good idea, and I asked, and this is just your advice, right? He assured me that it was. The next day, I wore my hair in a wee ponytail. It couldn't have been over an inch long. My boss called me into his office again and said in no uncertain terms, "We want you to cut it off." That night, I went to JCPenney's and bought 5 suits. The next day, I came to work in a suit with a 1-inch ponytail. I got called into my boss's office. He told me that I could either cut off the ponytail or they'd put me in the basement hanging tapes. Now I feel the need to explain the nature of my job. I worked in a building with 800 other programmers and systems admins. The only time I ever saw a customer was once a year when we were all required to spend 1 day working in a store. It's not like I met anybody outside the data center. I was so pissed off that I quit right then and there, and my fiance quit as well. Story 16. Old Store 1040 here. Friend and I foiled would-be robbers on our night off. We were shopping and stopped to talk and noticed 2 teens with a cart full of stuff that should never have made it out of electronics. We knew something was up, so we discreetly followed. They went to Garden Center and left the cart in aisle down by the door. They started trying to get the cashier and other guy away from the door. We just walked down and moved the buggy when they weren't looking. One of the girls came back once they got everyone looking the other way. We just stood there laughing. Let's see. A guy got mad because he had to wait. I had a price check. He stood there until I was ready to help him, then threw the item at my face. One of the managers saw it. She was a tall, beautiful, athletic lady. He called her a gorilla. She said, "Oh, damn no," and chased him outside. The officer booked it out behind her before she beat that dude. Had several instances of teens, young people walking through the store with no undies, and all the guy employees and managers following right behind like the dogs they were. Story 17. I worked third the summer of 2014. I would stock cereal mostly and then go help with frozen dairy, because that was way too much work for our one dairy person to handle. One night, I was minding my own business when I moved a box of Reese's Puffs, and there was a full set of ladies' underwear. That was worn, and dirty. Another time, a friend of mine, who stocked drinks, was doing his job and just yelled over the aisles for me to come over and check out his find. Tons of bloodied rags were everywhere behind the soda. I was helping bin stuff in the back steel, and a coworker of mine was looking down at me, and a huge truck battery slid off and hit me in the left shoulder because he wasn't paying attention. We men of third didn't report this crap because we wanted to stick it to the whining get mother duckers on first shift that reported every single little thing and kept us from getting our bonus. Thankfully, nothing was broken. Lastly, one night I was helping a couple of my friends stock cereal, juice, and normally we just punch open the boxes because it's the fastest way to open them and Walmart don't give a duck. We wear gloves to keep from getting cuts and C's from the cardboard. I go to punch this box and my hand goes through it only to be stopped by the very top of a gallon bottle of Kool-Aid. The gallon of Kool-Aid exploded everywhere and I almost broke my hand, but we laugh about it now. Story 18. It's been almost 10 years since I moved on, but here are some of my adventures. Did you know that copper kills lobsters? Every so often, someone would drop a penny into the tank. All the lobsters would die and smell terrible. Speaking of lobsters, someone turned them all loose in the store late one evening. Coworker and I had to try to catch them all. We found all but one. LP was following a shoplifter, and the shoplifter grabbed a bat off the shelf and beat him with it. Manager called the cops and tried to tackle him as he left. Shoplifter shrugged him off, and he went sliding across the pavement. Shoplifter then punched a cart pusher in the face, breaking his jaw. When the cops arrived, they found him hiding under a truck. His excuse was, "I'm changing my oil." He had stolen an empty display box for a car stereo and a candy bar. Another thief attempted to pull up the chain that tied down the lawnmowers to steal them. He instead pulled off his bumper, which he left. Still attached to the bumper was his license plate. One more about theft. Guy steals a big screen TV, the projection kind, by simply loading it on a cart and walking out with it. Manager notices and calls the cops. He is found 15 minutes later, not half of a mile from the store, waiting for his food in the Crystal drive-thru. The TV was still in his truck. I have more if there is interest. Story 19. Used to be the third shift stalker. It's like 3 a.m. and some kid is riding a bike around the store. It's not his. He literally just hopped on a bike off the rack and started riding. My manager catches on and starts chasing him around yelling, and this kid doesn't care, keeps going. Eventually, this escalates to the point my manager, this 6-foot goofy a hole, tackles this kid right with the bike, and the kid instantly goes feral, biting and flailing and freaking out. He sprints out the door, and that was that. Story 2. I saw 2 black men and a black woman running out of the store. One man had a cart full of electronics, TVs, and crap. Just outside the door, they load all of it into an SUV in seconds as if it's a competition, and they're gone. Manager said nothing about it until the next day. They decided to inform us that 3 armed robbers were in the store, and if we have any info, etc. Really? Another guy tried to steal hedge clippers and use them to open a thick plastic case around a video game. He hit himself badly. I'm pretty sure he got away with it, just not unscathed. I could go all damn day. Walmart past midnight is a damn clown fest, especially when you're in a real country cornfield area. Story 20. My husband has worked for a Walmart in Southeast Georgia for years. We've only done Black Thursday, Friday twice. And while you can probably guess why, it's odd to see what happens there. The fistfights you see on the news, YouTube are real, but it's what happens afterward that should really piss you off. Each year, they take an area of the store that wouldn't normally be popular for this type of sale, garden center, hardware, automotive, etc., and use it to dole out the claim tickets, bracelets for the item on the flyer for that period. It's usually 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 10 p.m., 12 a.m. on Thursday, then 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon on Friday. I'd gone for an item for the 8 p.m. Thursday slot, the very laptop from which I'm posting. While we were waiting, there were cheap $39 tablets being given out at 6 p.m. As 6 p.m. rolled around, we could hear the fight from across the store. People who didn't manage to get a claim ticket for tablets were trying to get them, and ticket holders were apparently defending their claim. Later on, my teenage kids and I saw about a dozen of those tablets lying on various shelves, discarded in favor of some other gifts. All that fighting just to leave it to the side? It had happened the year before too, with some $50 smartphones. You'd think if you'd be willing to fight to keep an item out of someone else's hands, you'd actually make it to the checkout with said item. Story 21. So I work as Walmart standards, a fancy way of saying janitor, and I got paged to the chemicals aisle for a spill. I go take a look and dome, one dropped a full thing of detergent on the floor, so I go and grab a mop. Right as I'm coming back with the mop going around the corner, a not-so-skinny lady starts slipping in it, followed by her cart falling on top of her. The lady is then stuck in the middle of the puddle of detergent, trying to get her cart off her and get up. It was hard to hold my laughter after that. So I call a manager, and we ask her if she saw the spill, and she explained how she thought she could lift her cart around it and get by, and demanded we give her new clothes. We ended up just giving her a cheap shirt and pants to shut her up. Needless to say, the next hour of the shift was spent in the security room with my manager, re-watching the video of her falling down again and again. Walmart sure attracts some weird people. Story 22. Formerly in electronics. One evening, two teenage boys came in and loudly discussed how the father of one of the boys was very rich and gave him a checkbook to buy whatever he wanted. He starts asking for us to pull out a couple of our largest TVs, 2 of each game console, various games, and a computer. We promptly refuse service because 1, if your dad is actually rich, you wouldn't be caught dead in a Walmart, and 2, that's a highly suspicious amount of high-theft merchandise to be buying all at once. Another time, a man handed me a receipt saying that his wife bought a computer earlier that day and he was there to pick it up. The receipt was a very obvious copy. The paper was twice as wide as our receipts, a different kind of paper, and printed in a different color. I told him I had to get my manager to confirm it, kick him out, but he was gone by the time we got back. Also, beware the large number of Middle Eastern guys who try to buy 9 prepaid cell phones as gifts for family members. They'll often send them back to the Middle East to be used as remotes for IDs. At the time, it was illegal to sell more than 2 to a customer. That's when they started showing up with a group of friends who each wanted to buy 2 prepaid phones. Story 23. My girlfriend worked at one here in Portland, Oregon a few years back. An elderly lady couldn't make it to the bathroom and left a poo trail heading inside. She then left unnoticed. A second elderly lady went into the bathroom, slipped in the feces, and had a heart attack. Her poor store manager had to wade through crap, his words, to use the defibrillator, covering himself in the process. The second lady passed away. First lady was never identified. I just imagine her watching the news later thinking, I crapped my pants and someone passed away because of me. Story 24. One summer around 2003 or so, we had a bumper crop of high schoolers come to work at our store, and several were into local bands or were in them. Somehow they talked our store manager into allowing a mini festival in front of the store. Pallets were stacked up for the stage, and we had a day full of high school bands being all punk and emo in front of a suburban Walmart. My favorite was the girl band screaming about a visit to the gynecologist. How the plug didn't get pulled after that one is still a mystery to me. I know better stuff will come to me later on. Story 25. 6 a.m. When there still wasn't light out, I see this guy walking around the store with a gallon of milk on a leash. He had tied a string around the handle and dragged it wherever he was shopping. I didn't bother to ask why, because the sort of person that does that isn't going to give helpful answers.